Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof arrived in Kiev on October 6 for a visit where he and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy honored fallen Ukrainian defenders at the Wall of Remembrance on St. Michael's Square. Zelenskyy reported on X, "With gratitude, we cherish the memory of everyone who stood for our freedom and their heroic deeds," said the Ukrainian leader. "Eternal memory to the Ukrainian defenders who gave their lives securing Ukraine's independence. Endless gratitude to each of them." Andriy Yermak, head of Ukraine's presidential office, said he and Deputy Foreign Minister Yevhen Perebinis met Schoof at Kiev's train station. "We had been waiting for this visit," Yermak added. "There's much to discuss: the war, security, justice, and the strength of our nations. Also, Ukraine's European integration and NATO's resilience in the face of Russian provocations." This marks Schoof's second trip to Kyiv since taking office in September 2024. On October 2, Schoof stated that the Netherlands opposes accelerating Ukraine's European Union accession talks and insists on maintaining unanimity in decision-making.
Останні дні Україна застосовує виключно українські вироби, не тільки дрони.
Ukraine will be in the European Union with or without Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, because this is the choice of the people of Ukraine. I am sure that Hungary, the people support Ukraine in any case. I am sure of this.
The Netherlands have a positive attitude towards the use of the frozen assets, but at the same time, everybody also agrees that there are legal and financial risks, and certainly the Belgian minister also publicly, the Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever, made a very strong point on that, and I think he is right in that sense that the risks cannot be on Belgium alone, so that we have to, in the European Union and also within the G7, we have to share the risk, and if we can really share the risks and put Belgium off the hook, so to speak, I think then we can proceed forward very quickly with the frozen assets.
To the EU, Pana Presidente Zelenskyy, how do you feel about this?
Україна буде в Євросоюзі з Орбаном або без. Бо це вибір народу України. Я впевнений, що Угорщина, люди підтримують Україну в будь-якому випадку. Я в цьому впевнений.
В цю зиму це все ж таки сценарій 22-го року чи може
поставки у нас є. Американці нічого не заблокували. До речі, я знаю, що було в засобах масової інформації, що є там shutdown, є деякі виклики. Вони не заблокували поставки в Україну. Це важливо.
Можливо, буде гірше, а можливо і краще. І як у нас із поставками ППО і ракет.
В принципі, американці
We have supplies. The Americans have not blocked anything, by the way. I know that there were media reports about the shutdown and some challenges in that regard. They did not block supplies to Ukraine. This is important. In principle, the Americans have unlocked the possibility of purchasing Patriots, not only missiles, but also systems. Only the money remains to be an issue. That is, there are advantages and disadvantages. As soon as we diplomatically unblock something, other deficits appear. Ed's note refers to finances for weapons purchases. Therefore, I count on the frozen assets, honestly, looking at the pace at which we are getting money. Russia will do everything so that we cannot produce gas. They will do everything. It will be difficult to protect all this. The task at hand is to have money ready to import gas simultaneously so that people have gas.
I'm so disappointed in President Putin. I thought he would get this thing over with. He should have had that war done in a week. And I said to him, you don't look good. You're 4 years fighting a war that should have taken a week. Are you a paper tiger?
But if we are truly fighting against the entire NATO bloc and still advancing, moving forward, feeling confident, then that means it's a paper tiger. So what does that make NATO itself? Kupiansk-Vostok is progressing quite confidently at a very fast and steady pace. We treat this situation, very calmly and with composure. I don't know in what specific context this was originally said. Perhaps it was said with a touch of irony. Well, there's a certain meaning in that too. So he told his interlocutor quite directly that it was merely a paper tiger. What could possibly follow from such a declaration? Well then, the logical next step would be to go and effectively deal with this perceived paper tiger. A paper tiger. As I said all these years, Russia has not been fighting the armed forces of Ukraine, not fighting Ukraine, but is practically fighting all the NATO countries. If we talk about... Yes, you actually asked what's specifically happening right now on our line of contact. So, let me get back to the tigers now. So, along almost the entire extensive line of contact, our brave troops are truly confidently and very steadily advancing onward. Enormous historical challenges. We're currently at war indeed, right? We produce our own military equipment, and there are a significant number of countries fighting directly against us. Well, all the NATO countries are fighting against us. It's just they themselves aren't even hiding it anymore. And unfortunately, there are instructors involved, right? And they are actually directly participating in combat operations, really, from various Western countries. That's precisely why, yes, a dedicated center was specifically created in Europe, which essentially oversees and monitors everything that the Ukrainian armed forces do in great detail. It provides information, supplies intelligence, transmits reconnaissance data from space, delivers weapons, and trains them. And I repeat, the instructors are involved not only in training, but also in decision-making. And even in carrying out those decisions, thanks to our historical experience, we are better prepared for complex. Of course, this is indeed a very serious challenge for us, but the Russian army, the state, and the entire Russian defense industry have very quickly and effectively adapted to this significant challenge. I say this without any exaggeration whatsoever, and this is certainly not hyperbole, not an overstatement in any way. You know, this is absolutely not boasting. I firmly believe that today the Russian army is the most exceptionally combat ready, both in terms of the comprehensive training of its dedicated personnel and its advanced technical capabilities, which are truly impressive. In their ability to use and modernize them and to deliver new types of weaponry to the front line. Somewhere around 44,700 people. As they say, a ship will truly sail as you name it. Well, there's probably quite some truth to that indeed. But it does sound a bit aggressive. The Ministry of War, for us, it's the Ministry of Defense. That has always been our position, and it remains so, and it will continue to be so. We have no aggressive intentions toward third countries. We have a Ministry of Defense, and the purpose of the Ministry of Defense is to ensure the security of the Russian state and the peoples of the Russian Federation. It has had a very turbulent and difficult history. The very formation of Russian statehood.
Well, he's teasing, saying it's a paper tiger.
A paper tiger. As I said all these years, Russia has not been fighting the armed forces of Ukraine, not fighting Ukraine, but is practically fighting all the NATO countries. If we talk about... Yes, you actually asked what's specifically happening right now on our line of contact. So, let me get back to the tigers now. So, along almost the entire extensive line of contact, our brave troops are truly confidently and very steadily advancing onward. Enormous historical challenges. A paper tiger. As I said all these years, Russia has not been fighting the armed forces of Ukraine, not Ukraine itself, but is practically fighting against all the NATO countries. I haven't looked that closely yet, but the comprehensive proposal suggests creating an international body that would manage, well, along almost the entire extensive line of combat contact, our dedicated troops are confidently advancing forward. If you carefully look at the northern region, this includes the northern group, that is to say, in the Kharkiv region, there is a city called Volchansk, and in the Sumy region, a settlement, which is also important.